I think sometimes we get caught up in the idea that our journey, our courageous path, is meant to be linear from point A to point B. We are ourselves, we are facing obstacles and ordeals, we overcome them, we're given rewards, and there's success at the end, right? But sometimes it doesn't always look that way. Sometimes it looks like we're on our path and we see the obstacle, and maybe we see the truth of the obstacle and we don't want to take part. So we take a step off the path and we try to walk around it to get back onto the path, but without actually dealing with the obstacle that's in the path. And when we do that, we find ourselves walking in a circle. Now, sometimes this circle is very large and it can take some time, but you end up back in the same spot. And sometimes this circle is small and you end up back in that spot pretty quickly. And you're like, wait a second, I feel like I've already seen this before. I feel like I've already experienced this with this person or this group of people, or maybe it's a different group of people, but it's a similar situation and it's not good. And if you're unwilling to deal with it and you just want to step off the path, go around it, get back on the path, you're going to find you're walking in a circle again. Now, let me give you an example of this. I bought a business a couple of years ago. And I bought into this business because I went in with a partner that I trusted, and the business idea and the package was very pretty, wrapped up like a gift. And I believed enough in myself that if things were going to go sideways or needed help or bolster, I had the skill set to make it work. Could I be very successful? Yes. But a lot of moving parts was going to have to take place. Now, 2 weeks in, I knew in my gut it was not a good decision, but I did it anyway. And 2 weeks later, it was very clear that this was not going to work out well. And it was going to take a lot of elbow grease and hits on the chin to get to where I wanted to be. But I fully believed that I could get there. It was just going to take a lot more than I had initially thought that it would. Well, 2 weeks after that, the business went under and I got out. But because of the way I reacted and the way I handled it, I just basically stepped off the path, blocked some hits, and tried to get back on the path. Cue a year later, same business partner, different business opportunity, starting from the ground up this time, thinking I had more control. Different people, similar situation. Now, this process took a little bit longer, right? I think I'm facing the obstacle, but really I'm not, because in my gut, I knew at the start this was not a good idea. And again, I didn't listen to my intuition. I didn't listen to my gut that said, this is not a good idea. This is not for you. So what I did was I sidestepped that opportunity, not ordeal. It was an opportunity to say, no, I'm not taking part. I sidestepped it, blocked some shots, got back on the path. This process took 8 months. The business was not for me. And thankfully, I didn't lose as much money this time. Got out. But it was how I handled it the second time. It was the acknowledgement that when the opportunity presented itself again in similar format, maybe different people, maybe not, I was going to say no and listen to my intuition. And sure enough, another opportunity came and presented itself. And this time, because I handled it differently, the path that opened up in front of me did not look the same as it had before. Because rather than trying to step off the path, around it, dodge some blocks, get back on the path, point A to point B, because I faced the ordeal almost like an ornate gate that was blocking my path and there was no key, I handled it differently. I approached it differently with a different point of view. The gate opened itself and the path changed. And the path was even better than before. the people that showed up on that path were different in a good way. And because I was brave enough to face it differently, the gift I was given looked different too. Now, sometimes this gift, it does not show up the way we want it to. Sometimes we have it in our mind of what we think is best for us. Sometimes it's like, you know what, I want this to show up for me, or I want that. But that's not how this works. You're going to get the gift that you are meant to receive, not the gift you want to receive. What you think is best for you. Because you end up limiting yourself in the gift that's going to show up. The gift that's meant to show up for you is the one that's meant for you. And sometimes it's way bigger than you could have imagined, way better than you could have imagined. So we also lose track in the idea that once you've passed the ordeal, then you get your reward and now you're at the end of the movie. No, that's not how that works. Because you might end up facing another obstacle or ordeal. But because of the gift you were given, you can't see the ordeal as stepping backwards on your path. You didn't turn around and go back to point A. You took a different path. You were given a resource. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's an experience, maybe it's a new tool. Whatever it is, it was gifted to you because of the next ordeal. And then the next ordeal becomes less important, less of something to react to, because you're like, oh, I know exactly how to do this because this person with me on this path taught me, or they showed me how to maneuver through this. And I can apply my wisdom, I can apply my experience, I can apply this tool and get to where I want to go, which is on my path. And sometimes that path is going to turn left. Or it's going to turn right, and then it's going to turn right again, and then it's going to turn left. And you're not going linear point A to point B. Now your path looks a little bit more windy. And maybe you're ready to take a break. Maybe you want to sit down and enjoy the view and allow the integration and reflection to take place, because it can be exhausting. It really can. And maybe that person is joining you on that path, and maybe they're joining you in that rest. And they're dropping pearls of wisdom to you while you sit there and reflect. Because you overcame the ordeal, but it took so much out of you that you need a break. That's okay. And that break is going to look different for everybody. Setting a time limit is foolish because it's going to look different for everyone. In that same situation, it's going to look different for everyone. And the beautiful thing is that sometimes if you're parallel with someone, or someone is also on your path, the path is wide enough for both of you to walk together, it's not always going to be wide enough for you to walk together. Sometimes it will be narrow and only one person can walk on that path, and that other person needs to walk parallel with you as they walk their path. But the beautiful thing is that you can see their path and they can see yours. Now, sometimes you're further apart. Maybe there's 100 yards between you. Maybe it's 10 feet. And you can offer gifts and wisdom as you see obstacles approach, and they can do the same for you. But getting stuck in this notion that it's point A to point B, overcome the obstacle, get the reward, you're at the end, and you've been with the same person through the same thing, and you're on the exact same path. That's not how this works. And maybe it feels like you're facing more ordeals than the person on the path parallel to you. But you might not also be able to see their path in front of them. And so maybe for a while you are facing the ordeals over and over in different ways. But you can't see that their ordeals are coming for them. But because you've gone through yours and you've acquired tools and resources in other people, you are now an asset to that person because they're going to be facing their ordeals and you have gifts to offer them. And where we get stuck, especially in relationships, work, family, romantic, is that we are stuck in our ordeals without asking for help or guidance or wisdom, or we're experiencing the same ordeals because we are actually not dealing with them. We are walking in our circle while our partner or our person in our connection is still walking their path. Is it fair to ask them to stop walking on their path because you are unwilling to deal with your own ordeal? Truly deal with it. And then the distance becomes further and further from one another because you were parallel and you were working through things, but at a certain point, maybe you stopped growing. Maybe you wanted to take a break and they didn't want to. And that is okay because they're on their path and you are on yours. But then are you willing to do the work to catch up? Do you want to catch up? Maybe their path is meant to divert in a different direction than yours. And it's time to reevaluate that. Maybe you need more time for reflection and growth. Maybe you want to take a fork to the right, and it's going to take you further away from that person. And you don't know if your paths are going to become parallel again. And that's okay. Maybe they're not meant to. Can it be lonely? Can it be painful? Absolutely. But it's about that path walk. It's about that journey for you. So now is the time to embrace the idea that your courageous journey is not point A to point B. It is not linear. It looks more like an infinity symbol. And there are times where your paths will cross with someone else, and there are times where you are walking that path solo. And it is in the walking that you find your strength and your resilience and your inner knowing of what you are capable of and where you want to go. This isn't to say that you don't have a say in your journey on your path. You do. You can ask for your path to converge with someone else's and the path to open up for both of you to walk. But you cannot ask and expect that path to stay wide enough for the both of you. And you need to be brave enough to say, for a little while, I'm going to take this path over here, 10 steps away, 50 steps away, and I will walk parallel with you. But I have my own growing to do and my own learning to do on my path. And you might see something totally different on your path. Even if you're walking the same direction, what shows up on your path might look different than theirs. The flowers, the animals, the sounds, the plants. It's in the uniqueness of your own path that makes your life and your courageous journey so beautiful. I hope you're brave enough to keep walking.